Let me start with this image. How many of you recognize this image? An iconic image that became one of the biggest movers in theater in recent time. How many of you recognize this picture? What is this picture about? Right, Gen Z movement, right? So the Gen Z movement that happened on the 8th of September in 2025, that 8th and 9th, that actually took everyone of every age, not only the Gen Zs. On those 8th of September, which actually remained as a general protest against the government's ban against the 26 social media platforms of Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, WhatsApp. But it didn't just remain as a protest against the regulatory fight. So, what it was actually transpired by the Gen Z and the youth who marched into the streets of Kathmandu on the 8th of September, most of them on the uniforms, the school students in the uniform, they felt that it was not just this ban on the social media platform, but they viewed it as a censorship on the entire generation, censorship on their conversation and their network on itself. So the moment that the young people moved from their tweets and their TikToks to their barricades and bloodshed on 8th and 9th September, it was, and the way the entire movement happened within that, in less than 48 hours, the entire generational digital voice, it actually turned out into the national outcry. So every one of us, most of us, we have actually experienced that, and what still we are with the aftermaths of those Gen Z movement is still, we don't know exactly what's going to happen, right? So the way that movement happened in less than 48 hours, they didn't know that there were no formal leaders there. They in fact didn't know how the things have actually mobilized. The only one thing that they were clear that they wanted to go for the protest against that the ban of social media, but underlining aspect, the learnings for the people like us, the corporate leaders, the project managers, and the product leaders, is that the way that it transpired within that 48 hours is what I feel that it is not just the story of any other protest, it's the story of the assembly in the reality, in real life. So that's the generational awakening. And what we have seen is the real life example of the agility that happened in the streets of Nepal and the hearts of the youth. I'm not here to speak about the politics, and I believe that I'm not allowed to do that as well, but I want to relate that story with what we do as a corporate leader and the project managers or the product leaders. If you actually view this from the project or the product development perspective, the Gen Z, you relate that, they didn't wait for the permissions. There were no SOPs or there were no standards out there. There were no leaders out there. What happened was that it was a more of a coordinated, deep grouping, what happened, and the things of the tactical movement, they adapted every hour. They changed the mode, and what we saw is not just the protest, but a large-scale movement. So my name is Neelesh Man Singh Pradhan. I am the CEO of Nepal Clearinghouse Limited. So I just wanted to relate that movement with some of the learnings that I took it from that movement. And from the project perspective or the project management perspective, I believe that you are the best. I am not here to talk about anything about the frameworks or methodologies. You know it better than I do. So, but I just want to take you through the journey of that Gen Z movement versus what is important or what matters you most. What is the purpose or what values you the most, so that we can actually build a great product, we can actually build a great company as well. So as, if we relate that Gen Z movement, what actually transpired against what is the basic principle of your of our project management, whether that's Agile or PMI or whatever framework that you follow. It's basically you read, you iterate, you adapt, right? You coordinate or organize your team, and then actually uh, uh, execute the activities or the task. That's exactly what you do, right? And during the course of that time, there are multiple hiccups, the risks comes in, so you try to manage that. And at the end of the day, once you take the calculated risk, that's where you actually complete your entire project or the product. And it's same for when you are actually building a company also. That's the same flow that you actually do when you're actually building a company. So what or why the purpose matters. Okay, so when we look at that Gen Z movement, the purpose seems like that somebody, the government has actually banned social media and then we want to protest it. But the underlying, if we look with detail into the actual real purpose of that movement, the ban of that social media, that was just its spark, which actually ignited the entire protest or the movement. But the underlying, deep into the heart of the youth, it is basically the purpose. Purpose was basically they thought that the Nepal deserves better transparency and accountability. That was the purpose which actually drew every young people on the streets. And later on, it was not just young people, there were artists, there were the people, not so Gen Zs as well, they were at the streets on the 8th and 9th, and still we don't know exactly what's going to happen, right? So why the purpose actually matters? So when we compare that into the corporate world or in a management world, we need to get the answers to that why question, right? So you normally do in terms of your features or your product, and that exactly happens with the company as well. So why does the company exist? Or why are we doing this product? What's the purpose of this product, or what is the purpose of the individual feature that we may be working at? So if you get the answer to that why question, and if you embrace that purpose, the entire person or a team or a company, and that's exactly where the answer to that why is the purpose for your product, purpose for your team, or the purpose for your company is what I believe is important, and that and that's exactly when you know that what is the purpose of your team or the company or a product or a project, then the entire team will be self-mobilized, they will be self-coordinated. You don't need to dictate or you don't need to say what needs to be done. It will be basically moving on its own, just like how the Gen Z movement happened. So when we talk about the purpose, even if the purpose is clear, for example, if you are building a big system, so you know exactly what needs to be done and what is the purpose or the core value that the product is going to bring about. But and you may be having a perfect project plan, but life is not, it doesn't move as per the project plan. Or there are uncertainties, there are vulnerabilities, and when that happens, as the leader or as a project leader or the product leader, you need to have the courage to ask question, why is this not happening or why is this happening otherwise? So when you have a courage to ask question, you will be able to take the risk of those uncertainties and the vulnerability. So if you relate that again to the Gen Z movement, the purpose for them as a Nepal needs better transparency and accountability, they overcame risk of having an impact on their academics, the students, the risk of physical danger. They overcame that, and when that courage or the purpose is with those people, then you will be able to have that courage, overcome the risk as well. So you don't, and after that, you don't ask for the permission, you don't ask for the perfect coordination or you don't ask for the right project plan. You just move on. You just, and again, the real principle of your project management, iterations. You adapt as per the external conditions, and then you learn and you organize your team, and that's where you build not just a feature or a product, but a great product and exactly a great company as well. So these, if you relate that to Genji fundamentals with the project, these are the external components or the external items which basically you need to overcome, right? So deadlines, client requirements, shift, teams not being protected from burnout, or the decisions where someone is unhappy, or the stakeholders' pressure for the feature or result or the profit. So when some of these features may be important, some of the features may not be important. These are often contextual, but we need to ask the question why, or we need to have the courage to ask the question on whether these are important, which one are these important. It's not important that in every time only one item will be important, it's all contextual. Sometimes we may have to give away with one of the activities or one of these things to cover up some of the other activities as well. So when we take action against the courage that we have actually shown, then we actually build and the risk that we'll be able to overcome. So I want to get into one more point of this. If you look into this picture, this is a normal tree with a large trunk sitting on a large, maybe because of the storm, it has actually bent. So if that tree has a very deep rooted and has a very strong trunk, then in that case, it normally doesn't break, but it just bends with that the flow of the wind. So it bends, but it doesn't break, right? So if we, this is a very relevant concept of this, something called as a rooted mindset. This is exactly what happens. Many of you may have heard that term, the rooted mindset. So when we say that what matters to you the most, the rooted mindset basically tells you that what you value the most. So when we not just talk about what matters to you, but we also need to ensure that what values is important for you, right? So when we consider that what are the values that actually, it may be for a team, what values for a team, or it may be for the individual, and it may be for the company as well. It may be for some, it may be the profit, it may be the empathy for the employees, or it may be the entire growth only, or it may be the number of projects that may be the value for a company or a team or or an individual. Oh, sorry. So whenever there are disturbances or external factors that affect the team or a company, what we need to do, just like the mindset tells, or just like what the tree does, we need to change the course, we need to change the strategy for driving the project or driving a company, but you don't give away your purpose, you don't give away your values. You need to be clear on what are your purposes and what are your values. So if you are stick with that, the rest is actually assured. So for some, we may have to give away the profitability, we may have to give away, there may be the cases of cost and time overruns, that's okay, unless you don't give away the purpose and the value that you believe is required. And I want to relate this from the purpose, courage, and the deep-rooted mindset with the company that I'm associated with. This is Nepal Clearinghouse Limited, where I am engaged with. And I believe that it's not, I believe that is one of the powerful examples of how the purpose-driven company and the deep mindset actually works in NCHL. I try to relate that with there are lots of other companies as well in Nepal, which almost, I feel that works in a similar way. I would like to take an example of the NCHL, which I'm more comfortable at. When we started the company, NCHL, back in 2008, almost less than 2 decades, there's no, almost one word of fintech was not there, so was the API. So there was no interoperability between the banks. Right? So the digital payments of the digital economy was almost nil. The only thing that was happening was the checks, the manual checks clearing. There's sort of SWIFT, and then there was some card payment transactions happening through the international rails. So when we started the company in 2008, the promoters, the central banks, the banks and financial institutions, they have clarity in the purpose. Although the mandate given was to start with the automation of the electronic check clearing, which we are operating right now as an NCHL-ECC, electronic check clearing. But the purpose was clear, that we want to build, implement and operate the national payments, clearing and settlement system to support for building the digital economy for Nepal. So the purpose was clear, and whatever the systems or the services or the platforms or the infrastructure that we have built from 2008 onwards, we have not moved out of this purpose. So we started with electronic check clearing. So this is the portfolio of some of the systems that we have been operating. There are almost 8, 9 or 10 large-scale national payment infrastructure that we're driving. So interbank payment system and the check clearing, these are batch-based payment systems which we started initially, which we thought that will suffice or will support the banking industry, banks and financial institutions. We're driving the real-time payment system. We're driving the national QR, NEPALPAY QR. We drive connectIPS, which is a fast payment system for transferring the fund from one bank account to the other bank account, one of the kind in Nepal, which we launched in 2017. Interbank payment systems and retail payment system. It actually drives the whole system that we are operating. It drives more than 75% of the total transaction in terms of the transaction value in Nepal. So that's in 15 to 16 years. And the first system that we went live was in 2012. So what I am trying to say here is, although we may have done the multiple systems, you realize in this timeline that in every 1 or 2 years, or even in 3 years, we have come up with a new system. So that's the iterations in the product management. We moved from the initial days of electronic check clearing and interbank payment system, which is a batch-based, more of a service company, to more like a service and a product-based company, and we drive a portfolio of products right now, 9, 10 products right now. So you need to reiterate, not just in a task or an understanding, we need to build an iteration on the product development as well, so that you have multiple products, portfolio of products with a company, so that you don't become irrelevant. And in some of the cases, the strategy is we even try to self-cannibalize some of the products. One is the check clearing. We want to go into digital. So unless we have the physical checks running around in the economy, we may not be able to go fully digital. So we ourselves are cannibalizing that checks. That's the corporate strategy on itself. That's not just insane. So we try to replace that, the check transactions being migrated to some of the other digital transactions on itself. So from that's exactly what I say, a service-based product company. And what are the risks that we may have faced? Okay. So although the company, NCHL, is actually promoted by the central bank and the banks and financial institutions, many think that it's an easier job, right? The central bank is the promoter, and the board, also the central bank stays, and even the banks and financial institutions are there in the board. But the reality is that actually adds the risk of governance, the risk of compliance risk, and excessive compliance risk, one. And second, so although it's promoted by the banks and financial institutions, we still have to compete with some of the private entities who are providing similar or overlapping products and services. So we still have to do that. So, and one of the changes or the risk that we have seen is initially the checks and interbank payments system was there. The central bank changed the policy selection in 2014, allowing the non-bank entities. Earlier, the banks were actually providing the risk payment services. So it allowed the non-bank entities, like the payment service providers like eSeva, Kaldi, IMEPay, rest of the other PSOs, payment system operators as well to deliver the digital financial services. And that's exactly when we had to change our strategy. Although this company was established for delivering the services to the banks and financial, once the policy changed, we didn't change our purpose, we changed our strategy. We opened up our infrastructure for the non-banking entities, and that's exactly when we started seeing the multi-fold transactions grow in our infrastructure. And we provide the interoperability and the services, the same level of infrastructure that we gave it to the banks, we gave an access to the non-bank entities as well. And rest is, we say, is a history. So we provide the services to not just the non-banking, licensed non-banking entities, any other large-scale entities like the government in Nepal, the corporate houses, the capital markets, stock markets, and today we process almost 97% of the government's Nepal digital payout transactions processed through NCHL. So that is what the impact that we have created, creating a digital economy, supporting the government of Nepal. Although less of a profitability, and it's interesting to see one of the use cases that for one of the government entity, we see the project plans, right? There's start date, end date. When you start working with the government, there's no end date. There's only a start. You don't know exactly whether that's going to be end or not. So there are cases whereby just to have the first transaction rolling into the system from the day we actually placed into that government department, it took almost 2 years to just get one transaction, to get them convinced that this is doable. And today, that 97%, along with 97%, the revenue collection around 30 to 35% transaction is what we process, the digital revenue collection for the government of Nepal, right? So we changed course, right? And there may be the market disruptions as well happening. So from the batch phase, electronic funds, real-time payments, so we need to firstly move into the product which supports real-time payments. So detailed payments. And now one of the largest projects that we are in terms of the size of the investment, in terms of the timelines, in terms of the number of stakeholders involved, is the national payments switch. The second phase, which we call as the national domestic card scheme, we are coming up with the NEPALPAY card, which will work similar to any other national card scheme, but the bank from now onwards, when you open a bank account, they will offer you, along with the other international card schemes, they will also be able to offer the NEPALPAY as our domestic card scheme, and we work in Nepal as well as the international corridors as well. So that is going to be one of the biggest projects that we have actually done, and it's going to be rolled out very soon. So there could be risks, right? So for instance, the limited business risk, and one of the biggest risks is, since there are government involved in NCHL in terms of the central bank or the banks, there is a heavy risk in terms of that whatever the NCHL provides as a service or the product, the expectation is it has to be free or has to be very, very competitive. So that's the right threat to the profitability or not just profitability, for the sustainability of the company on itself. So that's the risk. How do you handle that, right? So along with that, the perception, which I said that once the NCHS product comes in, all banks will auto-enroll. That doesn't happen. So those are the risks which we need to handle. We change the strategies, but we have not changed our purpose right from the beginning of 2008 that we are building, implementing and operating the national payments infrastructure, national payments, clearing and settlement system, and to build the digital economy for Nepal. And we've changed the strategy. We may have given subsidies to some of the products or some of the transactions. We have done that, right? And we have taken the risk of ensuring that each of our products or each of our project is a success. And by and large, we're not, our projects or the products rolled out, it may have delayed in some of the cases, but we have some of the team members from NCHL as well. They have done a great job, and they have not seen the field project until now. So that's one of the achievements of the NCHL that we have done. And to relate that with what we have discussed earlier, so from an NCHL perspective, the purpose is what is important for us. And whenever there was a risk or whenever there are changes in the course that we need to do, we have never implemented any of the system as just the NCHL system or for the product that we have or the system that we have developed is for one bank or for a central bank or for the NCHL on itself. I mean, every product that we implemented it as an industry project, the industry product. So when we say that in an industry product, there is something called as collaboration is actually required. And that's exactly what we normally exercise, right? So we collaborate with the stakeholders, collaborate with the banks, collaborate with the central banks, or any other stakeholders. We create committees, we create workshops, we create discussions, and every specifications or even the rule books are actually drafted by the industry, not by NCHL or NCHL's board. So and then it goes to the regulation for making it more of a compliance document. So along with that collaboration, so whenever there is a risk, as I've told that, there may be changes in the strategies, and we take the courage or the risk to change that strategy in that course. And ultimately, there could be changes in the policy, there could be changes in the cost and time overrun, that may impact the profitability, but it may be secondary for when you believe that the purpose is important. All of these risks or the outcome of these risks will always be secondary. On a final note, when we started the Gen Z movement in Nepal, it showed us the power, right? Showed us the power of rooted purpose that gave courage to face the risks head on. But for the projects, the product leaders and the corporate leaders, when we stand strong with our values and the purpose, we have ability to take an extra risk so that the products or team or the company can actually succeed and create a great deeper or a great company or even a great project team as well. So thank you very much. And it's a great honor for me to be here. This Nepal concept and transport. No time for me. Thank you very much.